as long as I am president of the Senate, and by the grace of God, I will be treated with respect and dignity, and I will treat everyone else with respect and dignity.
She is a black woman, an immigrant from Jamaica, whose father came here with like $1.50 in his pocket. She is a retired Marine who loves her guns and protects the Second Amendment, loves unborn babies, and has no time for any of this. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, down in Richmond, they are currently in a legislative session. And like most legislative U.S. Senate, like most state senates, the presiding officer, the president of the Senate, is the lieutenant governor. Just like in the United States Senate, the presiding officer, the president of the U.S. Senate, is the vice president. In fact, it's the literally only constitutional duty of the vice president of the United States. And for that matter, for most states, it's the only constitutional duty of the lieutenant governor. Now, in Virginia, that lieutenant governor is conservative Republican, former Marine. Oh, I'm sorry, retired Marine. No such thing as a former Marine, O'Connor. Lieutenant General Winsome Sears. And she was presiding over the Senate yesterday when one of the U.S. state senators, Danica Roem, asked a procedural question about a vote they were about to undergo and how many votes they needed to get an amendment passed. Pretty basic, down in the weeds, legislative, arcane stuff, right? But then something happened. Watch.
The senator may state it.
Madam President, how many votes would it take to pass this bill with the emergency clause?
That would be 4/5, Senator.
And what would be the exact number for that, Madam President?
Yes, sir. That would be 32. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those
Now, do you see what happened there? That state senator, Danica Roem, then threw what can only be called a hissy fit and marched out of the Senate chamber there. Why, you may ask? Because Winsome Sears said, yes, sir. Now, it's interesting here because I say yes, sir, all the time. A lot of people say yes, sir, whether they're addressing a woman or a man, right? You just sort of use that phrase here. But it was interpreted by Danica Roem that Winsome Sears was referring directly to the senator as a sir. And oh, by the way, Danica Roem is, genetically and biologically a sir, but as you may have saw there, based on the name Danica instead of Daniel, and based on the appearance, I suppose you could be fooled into thinking that Danica Roem is not a sir and is in fact a madam. And well, as you saw, Danica Roem wasn't taking any of it, storming out of the Senate chamber. Let's watch how this transpires now.
opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators? I am not here.
All right, now let me pick this up in a moment because they ended up having to go to recess because of this horrific misgendering that Winsome Sears was responsible for. And everybody's meeting and yelling, and Danica Roem's trying to create a big deal out of this because this is what Danica Roem does. I know this. I've been following Danica Roem's career in Northern Virginia since the very first election. And the second that they can create a giant public event based on transgender rights, Danica Roem will be there. And that's what happened here. So Winsome Sears was called to apologize. And here's what that apology looked like.
I am not here to upset anyone. I am here to do the job that the people of Virginia have called me to do. And that is to treat everyone with respect and dignity. I myself have at times not been afforded that same respect and dignity. But in this body, and as long as I am president of the Senate, and by the grace of God, I will be treated with respect and dignity, and I will treat everyone else with respect and dignity.
Now, people didn't like that she didn't bend the knee, that she wasn't contrite enough, that she didn't beg for forgiveness for calling Danica Roem sir, or using the word sir when addressing Danica Roem. And instead, you saw a defiant Winsome Sears saying, you know what, I've had a lot worse said about me, and I assure you she has. I've seen it. They hate Winsome Sears. She is a Black woman, an immigrant from Jamaica, whose father came here with like $1.50 in his pocket. She is a retired Marine who loves her guns and protects the Second Amendment, loves unborn babies, and has no time for any of this. And let me tell you something. The liberals, the left, Democrats, the media in the Washington, D.C. area, they slime her. They call you know how she's treated. You know how any Black conservative is treated, let alone a Black woman conservative. So she said, give me a break. Man up, she said. So Democrat politicians all over Virginia decided that this was their moment. This is their Waterloo. This is their time to end Winsome Sears' career. Dan Helmer, Virginia. This is disgusting. Danica is one of the best public servants in Virginia, and Winsome Sears should grow up and show the senator the respect she deserves. Let me tell you something about Danica Roem. Danica Roem has run for the House of Delegates and is brand new to the Senate. Danica Roem has only been there for about a month, so maybe Winsome Sears was, surprised and confused based on Danica Roem's appearance. But let me tell you, every single time Danica Roem runs for office in Virginia, she collects something like 90 or 95% of the campaign funds for the Roem campaign from outside Virginia, from California mostly. Danica Roem is constantly in California for fundraisers from LGBTQ plus activists to bring back to Virginia to run for office. Let me ask something, Dan Helmer, Virginia. If Danica Roem is one of the best public servants in Virginia, then how come Danica Roem doesn't raise her campaign money from all of those grateful constituents in Virginia? Good question. But that didn't stop other Virginia Democrats from jumping on board. This is disgusting and inexcusable behavior, especially from an elected official, says Zach Lincoln. Mayor LeVar Stoney, I believe that's Alexandria, Fairfax, Northern Virginia. Winsome's comments on Danica Roem are abhorrent. What do you mean, Winsome? You call her Lieutenant Governor Sears, or maybe ma'am. Mayor of Richmond, thank you very much. Her refusals to backtrack fail to represent true Virginia values. This must be denounced uniformly and unequivocally. True Virginia values? I'm pretty sure George Washington would agree with Winsome Sears here. Winsome Sears doesn't owe these people anything. You want to know who Winsome Sears is? Let me just explain one more time. Winsome Sears is the first woman elected as lieutenant governor. She is the first Black person elected as lieutenant governor of Virginia. So obviously she is also the first Black woman elected lieutenant governor of Virginia. And it's a one-term situation. So in a year, Glenn Youngkin will be termed out, and Winsome Sears is next in line. She will be the presumptive nominee for Republicans, and Republicans love her. In fact, I will tell you this. When Glenn Youngkin was running for governor, and people were not so sure about this guy because he was a businessman, sort of put off a Romney vibe, not so sure. How conservative is he? Winsome Sears brought it. I know people who voted for Glenn Youngkin in that election because they wanted Winsome Sears as lieutenant governor. She is adored, and that's why they hate her. If she were a Democrat, she would be on national news all the time. She'd be on the covers of magazines. She would be celebrated. Are you kidding me? A Black woman, immigrant, Marine, who's now lieutenant governor of a former Confederate state. Are you kidding me? But Winsome Sears is actually a lot more than that. She's not just about the labels you can put on her. And she doesn't have to pretend to be a heroic woman. She just is. Here's who Winsome Sears is.
Hello, Virginia. I'm Winsome Sears running for Lieutenant Governor, and I'm taking a little bit of a break. Today is very important. It is August 11th. Now, that's when my father came to America, but this was back in 1963 so that he could get a second chance at life. And then he came and got me 5 years later, and this was after he had gotten his education because he only came with $1.75 and took any job he could find, and then he put himself through school. And then came and got me, and now here I am making my way in America. And I was naturalized in October of 1984. And I've got to tell you, America may not be what she's supposed to be, but she ain't what she used to be. And we want to make sure that education pulled my father out of poverty, and it will pull everybody else out of poverty. And that's why I want to make sure that our children have a good education. We'll see you in November. Let's get a different start. Let's give each of our children opportunities. Thank you.
And it was that kind of message that won her the election. And I do love the fact that she's just hosing down those black-eyed Susan while she's talking to you. She's just a normal mom. And boy, do they hate her. So that's who Winsome Sears is. Also, this is who Winsome Sears is.
Let me ask you a question. Why are we breaking glass ceilings as women if we're only going to rebuild them? What am I talking about? Well, we had a bill today in our House, the House of Delegates, HB 1229, and this was to say that we've got to have fairness for our young girls, for our daughters, especially when it comes to sports. They have to be able to compete on a fair playing field. They're not going to have scholarships. They're running, if there's a biological male, they're running for second and third place, and in some cases, third place. So please get involved. Please call your legislators, your senators, your delegates, and let them know that you're not happy. Let them know that you're looking. Let them know you have not given up your rights as parents, and that we also have to protect our girl children.
I'm seeing a pattern here, a pattern of behavior that perhaps we should analyze for a moment and determine exactly how these things are supposed to go down. Let's first remind you who started all of this and who actually caused the firestorm yesterday in Richmond. So here is Danica Roem. And I don't know where you stand on assigning people their pronouns or letting them call themselves whatever name they want to call them. Listen, this person has legally changed their name to Danica, so this person's name is Danica. But this is, objectively speaking, fact-based as we can be here. Here's the truth. This is a man who is dressed up as and presenting himself to the world as a woman. Okay? Who is angry that a woman has not acquiesced and called him a woman. And now let's look again at the people who are most upset about this. Dan Helmer is also a man, a politician in Virginia. Ditto Zach Lincoln, also a man who's really upset that Winsome Sears, a woman, won't call Danica Roem a woman. Also, the mayor of Richmond, LeVar Stoney, a man. He is also absolutely indignant that Winsome Sears, a woman, won't call Danica Roem a woman. These are new times that we're living in. Everyone has very strong feelings about this. I'm reaching a point here where I think that there's one basic fundamental understanding that maybe we can all get behind. And that is, men don't have any right in any way whatsoever to get in the face of a woman and tell them that they have to accept a man dressed as a woman as an equal woman. Can we just agree on that? Who in the hell are these people to go up to Winsome Sears, a absolute groundbreaking woman in public life who has done something that no woman has ever done before, who in the hell are they to go up to her and say, you're abhorrent, you're disgusting, you're despicable, because this guy who, 6-7 years ago decided he was going to be a woman, he needs to be called woman. And if you don't do it, you're the problem. Who in the hell are they? Winsome Sears, and frankly, every single woman in this country, on this planet. They have the right to determine for themselves who they're going to afford that dignity to. Every woman should be able to withhold for themselves, based on their own judgment and based on their own self-respect and their own value system, the honor of calling another individual a woman. I think they've earned it. Don't you?